there's one thing everyone can agree on, it's that the Bachelor franchise is just like Game of Thrones. Everyone has been saying this for years, and it's only now that I truly understand why. It's got plenty of likable people, but they always get knocked off early. Every season has some dude you want to punch in the face. It's got witches that haven't aged in like 200 years. Only hot people get cast. Whenever there's a wedding, it always ends in drama.
Name one thing that I said that's false, Derek. Don't insult my intelligence, Derek.
The guy in charge doesn't look like he's aged very well. You can't trust anyone. They all have ulterior motives for being there. And most important of all, the early seasons were really good, but the more recent ones are a pile of doo-doo. Except for you, House of the Dragon, I love you, never change.
Lately, some of you have been unreliable. Downright sloppy. Not you, Noir. You've been great.
Now, normally I grade a season based on 4 main categories. We've got the lead, we've got the cast, we've got production, and we've got the romance. But instead, this time, I'm gonna review this season based on a sandwich. Cause if there's one thing that everyone can agree on, it's that Gabby and Rachel's season of The Bachelorette is just like a Sloppy Joe. It's sloppy and a ripoff of Joe Millionaire. And just like a Sloppy Joe, you look at it and go, oh, yeah, that looks like a good sandwich. I could eat a lot of that good sandwich. That's a lot of good sandwich to eat. But then you press into it and all the meat comes out and suddenly you have half the sandwich you thought you had. Basically, what I'm trying to say is put your sloppy joes in a pita pocket, it'll change your life. Also, this season of The Bachelorette, we were promised twice the leads, twice the men, twice the fun. But really, at the end of the day, it felt more like we got half of everything. So then I'm sitting here like, why should I give it a full review when it feels like we got half the effort this season? Now, one thing I will do is commend them for trying something new. And I'd hoped that going into the season having double of everything, it would force them to make things nice and tight. Trim the fat and get rid of the unnecessary stuff. Focus on what's important. After all, they'd only have so much time for each lead. But just like a toddler eating a sloppy joe or a wedding in Westeros, it all just ended up getting messy.
Eat it, it's your sloppy joe.
I'd have really hoped there would have been a more solid structure in place for how things would have gone before the season began, and we were given assurances of that. Yet, right from the gate, it was clear that they didn't have any rules and went in just hoping for the best.
2 women dating 1 group of men. How's that gonna work? Honestly, I'm not really sure, but I am confident that Gabby and Rachel can figure it out.
Not my job, not my prob. I'm going to the warehouse to polish my knob.
I mean, just after a few episodes, Gabby and Rachel had to take the reins and say, no, you guys are picking a team, and that's that.
Well, we're kind of wondering if there's a different way of going about things.
You guys can do whatever you want. Listen,
I missed the part where that's my problem.
Cause for way too long, these guys held the power over the leads, the ones who are supposed to be making the decisions here. And then there were all those cancelled group dates, or dates that were filmed in full but they edited them out. Or what about Avon's hometown that had to be pushed into the men tell-all? All because they just didn't have time to fit it in. So, just like the finale of Game of Thrones, or the way that my little cousin makes sloppy joes, everything felt rushed. Like, Tayshia's season seemed more complete than this, and she became the lead partway through. And that was a bubble season, no Paris, no cruise ships, just a hotel and a dream. And when things get rushed, we don't really get to know the men, leading to stuff like us entering the episode before Hometowns going, wait, Hometowns already? I don't even know half the guys' names at this point. Also, when things get rushed, we don't get as much time to see the likable parts of our leads, cause the show is always gonna fill their time with drama when they can. And when we don't get as much likable moments for our lead, we aren't rooting for them. When we aren't rooting for them, the drama is just not as good because the stakes are low. I mean, who cares what happens to them if we aren't invested in their journey, right? Of course, there was Gabby who had her moments like,
I don't trust men.
You write like a 5-year-old. Well, that's pretty good. I have fake hair, a fake tan. I'm just kidding. Yeah, just a little bit, but you can't tell because boys are dumb.
Whoa! 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 Remember this!
But that left Rachel in the dust. And honestly, I'm sitting here wanting to follow Rachel on her socials not because I loved her on the season, but because I feel like after all this, I still don't know much about her other than she wanted to get engaged at all costs. Since the end of Clayton's season, the things I know about Rachel are she's got a dad named Tony who's supposed to be mean but likes everyone, and she cries a ton. Like, production sure love to roll Rachel out and go,
behold,
Cinnabon!
I've never felt pain like this before.
And yeah, Rachel really got the short end of the stick when it came to this whole experience. I mean, I'm not defending any of the questionable decisions she made this season.
But for that reason, I can't give you this rose. And I do truly apologize because you are absolutely incredible. I can't tell you enough.
But I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get there with you.
Come back. Come back. Come back.
But when you have two leads, one is always going to become the crowd favorite no matter what you do. And before the season began, Gabby was always going to be that person. Not that that's Gabby's problem or the audience's problem or even Rachel's problem. I just feel like the idea is supposed to be two leads, two stories we love equally. And I just don't know if that's possible to execute, especially in the same amount of time you give one lead. So yeah, at times it didn't feel like we got two leads as we were promised. So I'm sitting here wondering why us, the audience, as we go along, should be giving anything other than half the investment into the season if that's what we're getting back. I feel like they put more effort into shoving ads into the men tell-all than they did trying to figure out how to format this season. And while the finale, part 2, was very dramatic and gave us a lot to talk about, at least the first 2 hours of it, it still continued a tradition that the show has established of spending all their resources cultivating drama and controversy instead of a romantic ending. Oh, except for giving Eric a chance to respond to the blackface stuff. They apparently didn't have enough time for that in a 3-hour finale where they spent a whole 30 minutes of it introducing Zach. So if you want a review, I'll give you one fitting for this season. Rushed. The leads, yes, they were there. The cast, lol. The romance, huh? And if you want my grade for production, I'm just gonna give you half of it. Maybe you can figure out what it is. So this season ends up being a failed experiment that they shouldn't return to unless they can come back to it with a solid game plan. And hey, maybe they're learning a lesson here, because they chose Zach as the next Bachelor, who I know many of you like, but also many of you think is a rather boring typical choice for the lead. A rather safe option, and that may be true. But I wonder if what they were thinking in picking Zach is that they're getting someone who is definitely going to propose at the end of it all. He did say he was absolutely ready to get engaged.
Like, this still doesn't feel real, because she was, in my mind, future Mrs. Shawcross.
And with recent news like Clayton and Susie's breakup, this franchise needs a W and it needs one quick, and all of our hopes are now on Zach Shawcross. But I guess, at the end of the day, shame on me, because just like with Game of Thrones, or me after devouring a sloppy joe made by my little cousin, I keep putting my trust in this show and it keeps coming back like...
I did warn you not to trust me.
Except for you, House of the Dragon, I love you, never change. So, that's it for this season review of Gabby and Rachel season. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to let me know by giving it a like, commenting down below, and subscribing to the channel. See you all for the real show, Bachelor in Paradise, very soon, and until next time, Bachelor Fantake, out.
2 women dating 1 group of men. How's that gonna work? Honestly, I'm not really sure. But I am confident that Gabby and Rachel can figure it out.
Not my job, not my prob. I'm going to the warehouse to polish my knob.